So this is a parts and materials screen. The best way to explain it is to go through the process of adding a part. So before you can add a part, you need to select the unit type on the upper right. So um, if we'll select inch each, that means sold individually. There's no length, no weight, no other attributes, just per unit. So we click each, click the plus button on lower left, put a code, and the code is just an arbitrary alphanumeric string that you put in identifying that. You can decide what kind of scheme you want to use. It just helps keep track of your materials. It carries forth into the estimate. Vendor is an optional field that you define in the define fields from the estimate screen. It can be used to subdivide and subtotal estimates, so we can choose to use it or not choose to use it, but it's useful if you decide you want to subtotal your estimates. And you put a price per. If it's an each, that means the price per unit. If it's something sold by the foot, for example, then it would be price per foot, or if it's an inch, it'd be per inch, or whatever is appropriate. Now you notice there's a tax and markup column here. That by default is yes for both, but if when they're yes on taxes, that means whatever tax you apply from the preferences screen, a general tax applies. The materials tax value applies to this item. If you say no, then this item is exempt from the general tax. Markup works the same way. If you're applying a general markup for materials and this particular item is marked as yes, then the markup can be applied to this item. But if it's marked no, then this item is exempt from the general markup. So it gives you flexibility in pricing. You may decide to include a markup on a per item basis rather than a general markup, or you can do both using this markup column and the general markup. It gives you a lot of flexibility in how you do markups. Okay, the lower right is the assembly grid, and the labor grid has exactly the same grid. It's the same items. Assembly is a collection of materials and labor, and in that assembly is let's look at an assembly here. There's a quantity. Notice there's quantities and lengths in the assembly. So when you add the assembly, the whole work goes straight in, and you don't have to go and edit quantities back into the estimate. It's already there once you add it to the estimate, so it's a time saver. You can also when you add it to the estimate, you just click it, and then whatever quantity you put in this little box is multiplied by the quantities in the assembly, then that total is put into the estimate. If you click add as a single item, well, if you don't click it, then if there's 4 items in the assembly, when you click add, you're putting 4 items in the assembly. But if you click add as a single item, then the assembly goes in as a single item with the totals already totaled for it. And there's a space saver, streamlines your estimate if you choose to do that. And if you do add them as single items, the program will keep track of which parts of it are labor and which parts are not. And when you get a summary of the estimate, it'll still reflect the correct labor and materials totals. Let's do that just to see how it looks. Here's a estimate. Let's add this ASS3 assembly. I'm going to put 12 in there. When I click done, that whole assembly went into the estimate, and the quantities are the product of the quantity I entered when I added the assembly and the quantities that are in the estimate. So you can do multiplication and division with that adding estimates of a division. Just put in fractional numbers and basically you're dividing when you multiply. So very powerful.